Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS TDRIS.
Roger, nice to be in orbit.
My interest in the paranormal started from a very young age, when I discovered a book of unsolved mysteries on my grandfather's desk. He ended up giving the book to me, kickstarting my passion for the strange and mysterious. But there was one chapter in particular that really caught my attention, and that was the story of Bigfoot. For hundreds of years, there have been tales and reports of giant, hairy, ape-like creatures living throughout the vast wilderness of North America, terrorizing hikers, pillaging farms, even attacking miners. Stories of Bigfoot easily capture the imagination. It's no surprise the creature has been featured in popular culture for over 60 years. And if you go back even further, has been part of indigenous cultures for much longer. While there has been some very interesting evidence put forward in support of Bigfoot, including many casts of footprints, photos, audio recordings, and even video footage, the existence of Bigfoot is still hotly debated. So let's take a closer look at the mystery of Bigfoot. The name Bigfoot comes from a logging camp in California back in 1958. Jerry Crew, a bulldozer operator, discovered large human-like footprints in the mud. When he told the other loggers of the footprints, they all shared similar stories from other sites, including oil drums weighing 500 pounds having been moved in the night. The loggers eventually began to refer to the creature as Bigfoot. Jerry Crew was photographed with a cast of the footprint that started the popular culture phenomenon. But Bigfoot isn't the first name for this creature. There have been tales of similar creatures throughout indigenous cultures across North America. Dark Watchers, hairy men, stone giants, but perhaps the most popular alternative is Sasquatch. If you look outside of North America, there are also tales of the abominable snowman and the Yeti, whose description share many similarities. In California, there are petroglyphs created by a group of Yokuts that are between 500 and 1,000 years old. These petroglyphs depict a group of creatures resembling Bigfoot, called the family. Local tribespeople refer to the largest creature as hairy man. while California is by far the location with the most Bigfoot reports, there have been sightings across North America. In Mississippi, for example, a French priest was living with the Nocturnal people in 1721. He reported stories of a hairy creature in the woods that would scream loudly and steal livestock. It's interesting to note that loud screaming is something commonly reported in modern Bigfoot encounters. This same loud screaming was allegedly captured in an audio recording by a hunter who was in the Cascade Mountains in Northern California in 1995. The hunter called into the radio show Coast to Coast AM to explain his story and play the recording. This remains one of the most chilling pieces of evidence. Of course, there is one piece of evidence that stands above the rest. This is the Patterson-Gimlin video. It's only a minute long, but it remains the most convincing evidence ever recorded. It has been scrutinized and analyzed by hundreds of professionals and has yet to been dismissed or proven a hoax. Robert Patterson had been a long-time Bigfoot investigator, releasing several books and funding a number of expeditions where sightings of Bigfoot had been reported through the 1960s. Bob Gimlin was a skeptic, but had been assisting Patterson with the filming of a documentary on Bigfoot. They were alone on horseback on October 20th, 1967, riding along a riverbed when they came to a large overturned tree. Next to the tree and standing by the river was the alleged Bigfoot. They both dismounted from their horses, and Patterson chased after the creature with his camera, while Gimlin got his gun and followed at a distance. You can see in the video the creature looks back at them, yet doesn't seem overly concerned by their presence. Even as it disappeared into the woods, it did so at a measured pace, unlike what you might expect from a wild animal. Patterson followed the creature even after film ran out, but turned back when he began to feel vulnerable after leaving Gimlin behind. He later admitted he was worried the creature's mate might be in the area. After returning to Gimlin, they attempted to track the creature, but its tracks were lost in the overgrowth. They made 2 casts of the creature's footprints before leaving the area. The video footage of the encounter has become legend, seen by millions around the world. Patterson remained adamant the footage was real even on his deathbed, though he would admit he wished they shot Bigfoot on that fateful day, as it would have silenced the naysayers. He originally had to convince Gimlin not to shoot if they did have an encounter. While Bigfoot encounters continue today, we have yet to see footage that rivals the Patterson-Gimlin video or even comes close. When you consider the lack of CGI back in the 60s, and the fact that this video was recorded on film, it will likely remain the greatest piece of evidence, unless someone manages to actually capture a Bigfoot. However, there's one report that is much older and much stranger. It's the Battle of Ape Canyon. A group of miners were prospecting on Mount St. Helens in 1924. Marion Smith and Fred Beck were alone when they saw what they would describe as an ape man hiding behind a tree in the distance. They fired on the creature, and Marion believed he had struck it in the head since it immediately fell back as if shot. They went to investigate, but the creature was gone by the time they had reached the tree they originally saw it hiding behind. However, they did find some large tracks, between 13 and 14 inches. And the abnormally large footprints did resemble man-made tracks. They recognized them and had seen similar ones in previous years. Both returned to camp, but neither told anyone else of their encounter. The next day, Marion's son, Roy, went to a spring for water, and as he was returning, he heard a noise in the woods. As he turned towards it, he saw one of the ape men charging towards him, waving its arms and striking its chest. He fired at the creature, scaring it back into the woods. The following day it continued as Roy and Fred Beck ran into another ape man near the cabin. They fired on the creature and eventually struck it, causing the creature to topple over the side of a canyon. The remains of this ape man couldn't be seen from the top of the canyon. Later that same night, they woke to a bombardment of rocks through a hole in the roof used as a chimney. The attack would go on for hours, with the creatures banging against the doors and walls and trying to get in through the door. The miners had to nail the door shut and hold up for the night, packing up the next day and leaving. They reported the story to the police and local papers, which resulted in a large search of the area, but no creature was ever found. A lot of explanations were offered, but the miners insisted they saw the ape men. A member of the Kalalm tribe would back up the miners' story the same week of the encounter, and claimed he was ashamed of the local tribes for keeping secret the existence of a half-animal tribe, referring to them as the Seotics. The Seotics were claimed to stand 7 feet tall, though some growing as tall as 8 feet. Their bodies were covered in hair resembling a large bear. It was said they take lives for each life taken in their tribe, potentially explaining the cause for the attack. Could the Seotic tribe be the answer to the mystery of Bigfoot? Or were they a tribe of ancient human ancestors? Perhaps the most popular theory on what Bigfoot might be is an ancient and thought-extinct ancestor of Homo sapiens. Not only does it seem to resemble some sort of large bipedal ape, but even some of its alleged actions, like beating its chest or shaking trees, lends credence to this theory. There are a few potential extinct ape species that we know about, and they do resemble Bigfoot. The first is Gigantopithecus, which originated in Southeast Asia. It's believed to grow up to 12 feet tall and weigh up to 600 pounds. It's theorized that Gigantopithecus might be too large for bipedal walking, but since they have only found a few fragments of teeth and jaws, there isn't enough evidence to prove or deny this, leaving this giant ape as a potential candidate. There is also the Paranthropus species, like Paranthropus robustus, that shares a striking resemblance to Bigfoot, though most remains that have been found put this species at between 4 and 5 feet tall, much smaller than typical Bigfoot reports. These, of course, are the species that we know about. And even with these species, we found only a few fragments here and there. There are potentially hundreds of human ancestors that might fit the bill and have yet to be discovered. However, if Bigfoot is indeed just an offshoot of human evolution, why is the creature still unconfirmed? While we do at times discover animal species we thought extinct still thriving, these are typically small animals that would be tough to find in the dense wilderness. Bigfoot is not only a very large creature, it seems to have at least a very rudimentary form of intelligence, perhaps similar to a gorilla. But a gorilla doesn't exactly shy away from human interaction. They don't appear too concerned or scared of our presence. Likewise with small monkeys. So then, why is Bigfoot so shy? One possibility is that Bigfoot possesses a much greater intelligence than ape species. It would only take a few encounters like the Battle of Ape Canyon to understand the dangers humans present. I don't think it would require a great deal of intelligence to actively avoid human interaction. And while humans have spread far and wide upon this earth, the wilderness remains with many places someone or something could remain hidden. Bigfoot remains an enigma, a strange mix of folklore and evolutionary science. While some might dismiss the evidence, it's difficult to dismiss the idea. Even a renowned scientist like Jane Goodall had to admit Bigfoot could exist. So did this creature once roam the wilderness of North America? Does it still wander these stretches of untamed wilderness? It's a mystery that continues to confound, a question that still drives men into the woods in search. It's the mystery of Bigfoot.